Thanks, Alan, and thank you to Natalie and Eva for all their presentations so far. I don't have any fancy slides. It's just me in a room full of guitars with a fancy microphone. I hope to give you some decent insights anyway. Just a little bit about who I am. My name is David Hickey. I'm a portfolio manager at Lothian Pension Fund. We run the public money for Edinburgh and the surrounding areas, many of the final salary and career average pension schemes for the civic employees. As well as being a portfolio manager and a specialist in European equity, I also do all the responsible investment for the fund. So working on strategy and policy and filling out the PRI forms, the Principles for Responsible Investing questionnaire, et cetera, et cetera. That's a lot of work. And I think one thing that we can all agree on after listening to Natalie and Eva's presentation is that this is really hard. This is really, really difficult stuff. I'm sure you as practitioners, as trustees, as providers are all struggling with this area because there are so many complex parts to it and so many things that it would appear that were easy to achieve but are actually oversimplifications. I'll take you through a couple of those. For example, Natalie spoke about divestment earlier. And if we look at divestment, you think about our portfolios, we can decarbonize our portfolios pretty easily, actually. Eva was saying that the vast majority of the portfolio in a portfolio's carbon emissions will be concentrated in a very few stocks. So you can take those out of any index and if you're worried about tracking error, you don't actually add a lot of tracking error by not holding those stocks. But of course, selling your stocks, be they fossil fuels, be they utilities, cement companies, anything with a high carbon output, simply selling those to another market participant doesn't change anything in the real economy. It just shuffles the deck chairs, as it were. What we're really interested in doing is changing these companies that we hold as responsible investors. We work with these companies to try and change their approach and try and decarbonize the economy as a whole, rather than giving selling these assets onto other people. I think we've got it wrong in the past. Some of the things that certainly Western and European investors have been doing, forcing companies to divest assets. A very good example of that would be the Anglo-American mining's hiving off of the Thungela resources in South Africa. And what we've done there is we've taken an asset that's within a good framework in Anglo's, a responsible company that will run that asset well, and we've moved it to a vehicle on its own where it's at risk of being less well run. That is because people in my position often just don't like to have coal assets in their portfolio, so they put pressure to just get rid of coal without thinking what the impact is on the ground in places like South Africa, where those particular assets are. I think the mindset is changing amongst asset owners in that we need to be stewards of these individual assets, rather than moving them into other hands, perhaps private hands, where we lose track of them and we can't stop them being expanded. We can't have any influence over the lifetimes of plants and mines being extended. So we need to make very uncomfortable decisions. As I said before, this is really, really hard. And we get, bogged down, I think, sometimes in things like divestment lobbying, divestment discussions, where there are many, many things we can be doing and we should be doing as investors. Now, I want to, I'm not going to take up much time because I want to get to the Q&A. There's some great questions in there already. So I'm going to leave you with a quote, almost 50 years old, by the great John F. Kennedy. And John F. Kennedy said, "We choose to go to the moon." I'll not do the voice. So we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. And I say that decarbonization and the energy transition is hard, but we as responsible investors need to rise to that challenge. And I have almost infinite faith in human ingenuity. Now, if America can send a man to the moon in a decade, what can we do with the energy transition given 30 years to get to net zero? I'll leave it there. Over to you, Alan.